Alright, gosh darn chest and shoulder day. Probably my favorite. Okay, no, it's not my favorite day, but I love chest and shoulder day. I love every day at the gym. Today, we did something a little different. So if you look at my usual chest days, I start with like incline barbell bench. I mean, the recent one I did flat barbell bench, but today we start with dumbbells. I do dumbbell flat bench. I have not done dumbbell flat bench in a very long time, probably close to a year at this point, maybe even more. But today we did it and I tried to go for something a little bit different. If you look at my previous incline dumbbell pressing videos, you can see that I'm pretty much like cutting the range of motion halfway, almost halfway. It's usually like when my arms are at parallel, I cut the range of motion. And I kind of excused it for a while because my arms are super long. And if you do have long arms, you can kind of excuse that kind of range of motion. But today I was like, no, I'm going to do full range of motion and see if my chest gets a lot more activation. And it turns out that it does get a lot more activation. So slowly control the eccentric, came down and got a really good stretch at the bottom, a really good squeeze at the top. That ended up being probably one of the most effective dumbbell pressing sessions I've had in a very long time. So you can see here that throughout this bulk, my training philosophy is changing a little bit. I'm still for the heavy stuff. Like you'll see that I'm not always about slowing the movement down and stuff like that, but recently I've been having really shitty pains in like my wrists and my shoulders and my elbows. So I've been trying to be a little more conscious of that and train for longevity, keep the future in mind, because this is a very long sport. It's pretty much a lifestyle more than it is a sport. Anyways, here I'm going with the hundreds and then I slow it down to the 95s. Then I go to the 90s and do another set of the 90s to finish off. So 4 sets total on the flat dumbbell press. So we did a flat bench movement. Now we're going to do obviously an incline press movement. So I don't do the incline barbell press, I do the incline Smith machine press. Now, you might be wondering why didn't I just go with the free weight? Why are you using a Smith machine? You're being a pussy. If you think the Smith machine is for pussies, then you're just stupid and you probably bench 135. So pay attention here because the Smith machine is a great exercise. There's a reason Chris Bumstead uses it in a lot of his training videos. It's because you get crazy activation, you get crazy stretch, and you can still move a shit ton of weight. It's pretty much just like a free weight movement, except you don't have to worry about stabilizing the bar, and especially you don't have to worry about killing yourself because you can't get the weight up. As you can see here, I get stuck at the bottom, but guess what? I can just re-rack the weight at any position that the bar is in. That's why Smith machines are great, and if you don't use them, you're probably benching 135. So I dropped the weight here to a plate and 2 dimes because a plate and a quarter was a little bit too much. I only got like 7 or 8 reps on that one, so I decided to drop the weight. Pretty simple stuff there. I mean, we hit the lower and the mid chest, and we hit the upper chest with the incline pressing. We did a lot of heavy pressing, so we're moving to a fly movement now, and instead of doing the typical cable fly Sam Sulek variation, I'm doing the pec deck. I love the pec deck. I don't do it as much as I want to, but it is what it is. We did it today and it felt really good. I actually went up to 190 on the pec deck. This is one of the exercises where I wasn't super conscious about eccentric and all that stuff because like the strength curve of this movement is a little fucked up. As in like the weight is harder in certain areas of the movement than other areas. So I just decided to swing it around and still got a really good pump. Again, that's the bottom line for training, getting a good pump, getting a good contraction, and feeling pretty messed up the next day. So 4 sets of flat, 4 sets of incline, and 3 sets of pec deck. That's chest done. Extremely simple chest day. Like how much more simpler can you get than that? The most standard bro chest day. There's no plate press or like dumbbell pinch press or whatever bullshit that's on TikTok. It's just the good old stuff. The stuff that works has been proven to work and that feels the best and that you can move the heaviest weight on. Quick posing session. Again, the lighting is absolute trash, so I look like a fat ass here. Still holding on to the abs at around 200 pounds right now. The bulk is getting very difficult. I'm having a hard time forcing food down my throat. So I'm going to pull back a little bit. Eat kind of like at a comfortable amount to where I'm not like dying of fullness. I'm not like bloated all the time. So my waist doesn't like overflow, but also still eating a good amount of calories. I'd say somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 would be like a comfortable range. I'll probably end up like shedding some body fat and water weight, so my weight might go down. But the goal is 210 pretty lean. It's not 210 fat ass, bloated, just lethargic from eating so much food. It's 210 at a pretty comfortable weight with some good muscle mass added. There's some giants out there who are only like 15, 20 pounds heavier than me, and that's just fucked up. So I want to be 210 at a good weight to compete in a natural show and do pretty well there. Anyways, enough about my life story. Here we're doing shoulders because it's chest and shoulder day. I know I mentioned in the previous chest and shoulder day that I would break it up, but I changed my mind again. I don't want to break it up. I don't want to train once every 5 or 6 days. I just don't think that's good for me personally as a natural lifter. So we do, I think, a plate and a dime here for a decent amount. The first set I kind of fucked up by moving the bench a little too far back, but that's okay. I still got a really good activation with the front delts. As you can see, what I'm doing here is moving my head to the front, which really allows the front delt to squeeze a lot more. A lot of people don't individually feel the front delt. I'm trying to do that here because I feel like they need a little bit more growth on the side chest pose. So I do that, and I try and superset it once in a while with like the easy bar front raise, which is like a pretty solid superset exercise just to drive more blood into the area. 4 sets of overhead press, and here we go. Here comes the lateral raise spam. So we do cables this time, and we do obviously unilaterally with the cables. And you can see here that what I love about the cable lateral raise is you can do forced negatives. So what forced negatives are is you force the weight up by helping yourself, but on the negative, on the way down for the movement, you let go and you let the weight push you down while you're resisting it. If you didn't know, you're 30% stronger on the eccentric, I believe. You're stronger on the eccentric. That's the bottom line. So if you can force yourself to continue working on the eccentric when you're at failure of the concentric, then that's just going to help you grow a lot more. Going to create a bigger stimulus, and that's what I do here with the cable lateral raises. We do 4 sets here, pretty much all of them have force negatives or like burnout reps, if you will. At the end, you'll see it in the last few sets of this movement. And then I feel like my lateral head has not gotten hit hard enough, so I do dumbbell lateral raises at probably the worst camera angle I could find. So then I just go ahead and spam some lateral raises with pretty shit form, swinging the weight around, but still moving some heavy ass weight. Supersetted with upright rows, which are a great exercise. If you think it will mess up your shoulder, you are probably built like a pool noodle. That's it for the chest and shoulder day. It's simple stuff. Again, we did calves as well because I'm trying to do calves every day that they're not sore. Because these motherfuckers gotta grow. They're small as hell and I don't want them to be small as hell. So if your calves suck and you think it's all genetics, bro, you can't grow your calves unless you have good genetics. Train them every day and then see what happens. If they don't grow then, probably go on the trend. That's it for the chest day video. Hope you learned something. Hope it was enjoyable, and I'll see you in the next training session.